Hey, podcast listening people. Connor Doobie here. Hope all is going fantastic in your world. Thank you for tuning in to B2B Mentors. Grateful for you as always. We're on all your favorite podcast apps, so make sure you check us out. If you want to check out past episodes, make sure you're subscribed for future episodes, special bonuses, gifts from our guests, all that good stuff. Please go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. If you're watching this live, make sure to share this video. I guarantee you there is somebody in your network who will get some immense value from the show that we're doing today and every single day. I appreciate that very much. So with that, guys, today we have our guests, Tom and Jeff, our co-hosts of the Fill the Funnel podcast, who I'm also very grateful had me as a guest recently. You have to go check that out. Go subscribe to Fill the Funnel podcast. They have amazing sales content over there. They are both co-heads of RevLeage SDR community and creators of the Alfred Method. Ooh, we'll have to talk about the Alfred Method, guys, for converting 10% meetings booked. So got a lot to share with you today. I'm going to go ahead and bring the guys up here. Guys, this thing just loaded right as I got this. So I'll get this link here for you as we get you pulled up on stage. I'll give everyone a chance to jump in. Let's see. In no order of particular importance, Tom and Jeff, what's going on? We are live.
What is happening, Connor? Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure having you on our show, and here we are.
It was fun. This is just for the record, for historical purposes, this is the first threesome podcast we have on B2B Mentors. So I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be a great conversation. And I guess, as a way to get started, you guys decide who you want to go first, but give a little bit of extra background for everybody and what led you in your life and career to where you're at today. Why are you a mentor for others in the sales world, in the B2B world?
Go ahead, Tom.
Why are we a mentor? I've been a cold caller. I've been, in sales development, in sales for 15 years. And, when you kick it off, it's really tough. Getting into sales, breaking into industries, getting yourself that exposure to those opportunities. And then once you get them, how do you succeed? The role isn't easy. There's a lot of pressures. Angel, right? Sales Rehab podcast, talking about a lot of those struggles that we all have to deal with. And so I wanted to give back and help people really, cut that time in half, right? Ramp up faster, learn how to do things, and find community and support, to be successful.
Sales don't have to be a struggle when you got great information like what you guys are sharing. Jeff, what's up with you, man? Where'd you come from?
Totally. Well, I've through my extensive career, I'm not even going to name how long, it'll date me, but I've been lucky enough to be an individual contributor, a team lead, executive in the C-suite, like all these other fun things. And what I've learned is that there's this complete disconnect between what the management wants at the top and then what people actually experience at the bottom. And my passion is to make sure to blend those two worlds and put them together so that everybody in the entire journey enjoys what they're doing, knows what they're doing, and just generally just knows how to make a career out of it. So anything I can do to help is my mission.
You guys run a pretty sizable community. What are you finding are the biggest, modern roadblocks that B2B sellers are facing nowadays?
Top to bottom. RevLeague was built with the intent to create a large virtual sales floor. And, honestly, what we found over the last 10 months of running this thing is that, unfortunately, a lot of companies aren't set up from success from the top down. The leadership, a lot of them have no direction. They're limited by their tech stacks. They're limited by the coaching and mentorship they're getting internally. And they're just out there trying to do the best they can with chasing goals that were set by this leadership. And it's hard to have leadership that doesn't know what it's like to be on the ground, right? And they're building something, they're trying to get you set up. But a lot of our reps just got a loss with kind of that stuff. So they got to go external. They've got to go find it on LinkedIn. They got to go out to YouTube. They got to self-teach themselves to be successful. And that's where it all, we've seen to be the biggest roadblocks.
Yeah, and on that, to add to that, like on the leadership side, one of the biggest things is that the evolution of the buying process, it's changed so much over the past decade or so that like people who are industry vets who know what's going on, they don't necessarily have the roadmap anymore. They have to kind of relearn what they've started with and end up having to kind of rebuild that success formula. And so while they're kind of figuring out how to build their team, how to be successful, they tend to not really have the bandwidth to support their teams on the ground. And then you end up with both sides actually thinking, okay, these guys at the bottom aren't doing enough work. These guys at the top aren't respecting what I do and not supporting me. And then next thing you know, you just have a system that doesn't work.
So a lot of the time, leader, I mean, the fish stinks from the head down, right? I think that's this. I don't know if I said that right. Some shit like that. Some shit about fish stinking and smelling, whatever it is. But obviously it starts with leadership. Why do you think there's such a failure at the top of leadership? Like, what is it really that they're missing from a implementation or action perspective with their sellers? I realize very often that there's these ridiculous, I mean, something I hear very often is, hey, dude, you got to make 100 calls today. It's like, why 100 calls? Why not do 15 very hyper targeted messages? But in my report, I have to show I'm doing 100 calls because I got to report that to my CEO, because the CEO seems to think that's what's going to make our numbers. Some cases it does if you're not effective. But talk about that a little bit. What are some of the, specific things you see leadership imposing upon salespeople? What's the results of it? What are some of the biggest mistakes that they're making in terms of, running their sales team?
Yeah, well, okay, so that's a very good question, because we gotta cut the C-suite a break too, right? We got to understand that the situation that they're living in is very different than what it used to be. But the problem is that they impose these things that they've succeeded on throughout their career and that have worked before, but like it's a completely new landscape. You look at last year, I mean, in 1 year, we went from, what am I talking about? In like a couple of weeks, we went from everybody being in offices, having a sales floor, having a literal gong behind them and a whiteboard to write their wins on, and to all of a sudden we're SOL. We're out of luck. We don't know what we're doing. We're working from a laptop on our bed, and it just changed the mode. So when you have all these people that are built basing how they run their teams on old school stuff, it just doesn't translate to the ground, right? And then at the same time, they get benchmarks from people, from companies, from training programs, whatever. They get these benchmarks from systems that are very different than the systems that they're living in. So they're getting best practices from companies that have a 400-person sales team, $1 billion in funding, all these other things, and they end up with one sales rep. Okay. So no, maybe I can't do 100 calls. Maybe I need to. We don't know, because what exists in the benchmarks, what exists in those best practices reports, are not always what works on the ground in your business. So when we're looking at what Tom and I are doing, both with RevLeage and our own company, is that we're kind of translating that to reality, and we're bringing those people together and showing that there is actually a way to do this as a team together and get that training and knowledge that you deserve to be able to do this properly.
Tom, anything you want to chime in there, brother?
It's hits the nail on the head, is that it's like people that open businesses all the time. You're good at something, right? Like you can make quilts really great. So you open a business, but does that mean you know every element of the business? No, you just know what you're good at, right? Like, and honestly, the CEOs and the executives, like, cut them a break. They don't know what they're doing, but you'll go into a meeting with them and they're talking to the sales development team and they're like, hey, you get 5 minutes per call, don't you? And you're like, no, I don't, right? I get 30 seconds. Like, I wish I got 5 minutes on every call. They just don't get all the elements. And so they read what the online tells them. They're opening up these things, but there's no way to train a CEO on how to build an outbound engine successfully and get a team that can work well. And there are no do-overs, right? So you're building these teams out and they get successful. You make a lot of mistakes. And so then you're leaning on sales directors to come in, sales development directors, or a manager or a player coach to fix your mistakes and say, hey, I need help, build this engine for me. and you put more pressure on them, and you have unrealistic expectations because you think they're just going to have a magic wand to come in and crush it, right? So a lot of times you have these leaders, these sales development leaders, have to fight the executives on what tech stack to look at, right? Or what moves to make, because they fight everything because they're listening to their other CEO buddies and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about and I don't believe you, right? I don't think we should do that. So that's where Jeff and I, building teams, doing everything we've done in our community, and what we've seen is that, shit, man, let's give these guys some training. Let's help them before they even mess it up. Like, let's get you through a program. We'll teach you how to build an engine. We'll give you all the structure to it. And we'll make you actually be like an SDR manager without ever having to be one, right? So you're just in the world. You get in the mindset, you get in the attitude, and then you can bring on that manager and that player coach and those reps. And you're going to have, reduced turnover because they're going to be set up from the gate that you're on their side. You're in it with them. You get it, and you're like them. And you're going to have success right out the gate because they're going to be equipped with what they need to thrive, without having to put pressures on a player or coach and go through 6 directors in 12 months because they're not delivering on what your expectations are. We're just trying to fix that gap there, right? And clean it up, get them bridged, give them the education they need, give them the tools they need, and then go build that engine successfully.
From your guys' experience, what kind of structure and framework do you need for a successful outbound engine?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we actually just recorded a podcast on this last week. If you're looking at a very, very basic structure, like
speaking of which, guys listening in, check out Fill the Funnel podcast right at the bottom. Check it out.
So there's very basic 3 things that you absolutely need to run an outbound engine properly. You have to have really strong messaging. Okay, your messaging has to connect with your buyer, inspire your buyer, and get them to act. Okay. That's really, really, really important. Number 2, what's number 2, Tom?
Oh shoot! Now you hit me on the spot.
Okay, never mind. I got it.
Why you gotta hit me like that? You were going on a roll, dude.
Wait. Hold on, Tom. Go again. There you go.
There we go. Go again.
Oh, now
you're really on spot.
Now I'm really on spot.
Okay. It is number 2 is the approach. Is that what are the channels you're using? What is the tools you're using? What is the sequence of events that you're using to actually go out there and get results? Now we were very, very crystal clear in this episode that you don't necessarily need this crazy tech stack, do you?
No.
You don't need a tech stack. Everybody jumps right to the technology. And again, this goes back to your last question, Connor.
AI, automated outreach,
No, it's you don't need all of that, right? You don't need all of that to be successful. You need some of it, but not all of it. And so
not yet.
You need to kind of work your way in.
I do remember the third one, by the way.
Okay, you go. Go third one, buddy. Let's do this.
Benchmarks, right? We need to know benchmarks. So the 3 things really is that, right? If you're looking to build a team to go start prospecting for you, generate business, and go to market, it's all about, like Jeff said, messaging is your first and most important part you have to structure. Then you have to look at your approach. What channels are you going to do? Where does your audience live? Don't go try to be LinkedIn and social selling over there if your prospects don't even live there. You got to identify that approach. And then the third is setting realistic benchmarks. Reverse engineering what your goals are, what your committee is looking for you to deliver on, and then working all of that backwards. And like you said, Connor, do I need to make 100 dials a day? Maybe. We don't know that data. And that's the point of bringing you all in, to give us that ground level experience to know, can you book in 50 calls? Can you book in 12, right? Where are we living? And with the right messaging and the right approach, then those benchmarks will obviously start coming in on their own, and you'll be able to identify them. And then you can start scaling and making it a repeatable process.
What about in terms of infrastructure? I guess to be more specific, what kind of hired in positions do you need ideally to have a good, scalable sales department?
We somebody just posted this on LinkedIn actually just the other day, or yesterday, I think, on a poll of, would you rather hire 2 50K junior reps or 100K rep when building out, right? Founders, CEOs, what would you rather get? And when you're looking at your infrastructure with your team, you might not need that director yet. I would say you do. Director is the very first thing. You want to start there. Get somebody in that is going to be your core rep, right? You're hiring 2 positions in one, right? You're getting your player coach, but very definitive line that they have specific roles, but you want to get that director level in there and then start scaling backwards from there. You don't want to start junior. You're going to get a lot of hand holding, right? Like, you've got goals to deliver. You really got to get the engine going pretty fast. So trying to hire a junior rep may not be the best way to go. So you want to get your core very tight in that infrastructure. 2-3 reps that are seasoned, have experience, know what they're doing, and will level your company up alongside you. Maybe they get equity in those offers, right? They play a part in the growth of your company, and they're going to build out that structure with you and drive that. Then down the road, then you can start scaling into the junior side, right? Now you have your core, their training, you've got a scalable process. Now you can plug and play a little bit of, lower end people so you can get them that experience because you've got your core locked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens pretty frequently, right? People, leadership tries to hire in junior reps to maybe cut costs because they think they can train them up appropriately, which in some cases you can if you have enough infrastructure and time to dedicate to it, but most don't. So it actually ends up costing them more, spending $50K on a rep versus the $100K for the experienced rep.
Right. And you're hiring for the next position, right? Like, that's how you put it together, right? Like, hey, you're going to be my SDR, but you're also going to be my director, or you're going to be my SDR right now, but in a year, you're going to be my mid-market rep because we're eventually going to get to the point where our mid-market team will be up. So we're going to put you in there. So you're paying more, but you're getting more, and they're clear on what their path is, and you're going to utilize them in that way. Then once you start scaling, now you play that, but it's just going to derail you, Connor. Like, why do that? Like, you're just going to bring in junior reps that, like, you're a CEO or you're a VP. You don't have time to be monitoring and babysitting, having to check a dashboard to see if they're even doing the basics of the job, which is just doing the activity, right? You don't want to have to do that. You want them to just go, and you're guiding them throughout that building process, and they're working with you, and they're giving feedback on what they're seeing in the trenches. They're giving feedback on how the messaging is working and the approach, and you're open to hearing what they have to say in return, right? Hey, this isn't working. We need to change our messaging. I want to try this. Embrace the failure fast and hard and let them go through that for a month or two while you're building out your team. But you got to have a seasoned rep to be able to have that trust and that control with them.
Yeah, and the reason why that works is, or why it's so hard without that seasoned rep that Tom's talking about, is that if you think about it, when you're a new rep, you're junior, you're new to the role, you're trying to learn the role itself, the activities, the sales skills that is required to actually be good at it. You're trying to learn a new product. You're trying to learn a new business. You're trying to learn a new boss and a team and colleagues and tools. And there's so many things to learn. Is that if you're a new company with a brand new product, do you really think you need to get somebody who also doesn't know the job already? Right? How many things can one person learn that's making, 30, 40K a year that is not necessarily, making a whole lot of money and doesn't have a whole lot of experience? Why are you putting the weight of your company on their shoulders?
100%.
And yet this is the problem that we see all the time. We see reps in RevLeague that are placed with, not just tasked with like the sales job, but also building the structure.
And they don't even know it. And they don't even know it. That's the worst part. You're hiring these people as these junior reps or just an SDR, but then you're throwing 30 things at them and they have no idea. And like, they'll talk to Jeff and I, or even some veterans in the community, and they're like, hey, you're actually kind of like a director and you don't even know it. And they're paying you $40,000 and you're doing everything. And they're like, what? I thought, like, no. And it's like, dude, you're getting screwed because they're trying to cut corners and just get meetings booked without really thinking about this approach you're about to take, right? Bringing this person in and what they're going to be doing. And also, this person's representing the front line of your company, the interactions with all of your prospects, every company you're trying to get a hold of. Wouldn't you want somebody a little bit seasoned that can objection handle, knows the process, and can grow with your company with you? Why hire a junior and have them fumble and miss out on opportunities? Because they're going to burn through 200 dials and book one meeting. And what are you going to get from that?
Yeah, but I think the biggest pushback for leadership too is that I can't find good people, so I just end up settling at the end of the day as well. What are you guys picking up on, or the biggest drivers, or how should leadership be recruiting senior experienced salespeople?
Yeah, well, sometimes, and to your point, sometimes they aren't available, or sometimes they cost too much, or there's many reasons why that talent void or vacuum exists, right? So if you're not able to find those senior reps, if for some reason you're not able to, even though you're willing to pay, you have great tech stack, all these other things that would attract a good person, but they're just not there, then there are ways to kind of, I'm going to say it's moneyball the situation, is to build a structure that would attract any leader and that even junior reps can actually work with. Build a structure with proper processes, messaging, and all these other things, and build procedures in your company where the founder has to pick up, get up off his ass and make some calls, right? Like make some calls, do the work, put in the work, and show why they earned that title CEO or whatever, and actually make sure that when you get that junior rep, they are supported. They have a system, a playbook that works, and something that they can actually jump in and go. So that is another alternative to doing that.
Is it the money? Is it the money for most salespeople that you found in terms of hiring? If I'm going to attract in a high-end salesperson, is it mostly the money?
Yeah.
Usually. There's not a lot of startups out there that can pay $200,000 a year for a good quality rep.
Right.
Oh, that's ridiculous, Jeff. No way. I gotta shoot 200K. Shoot.
Yeah.
That would be a great position. But
maybe if you're making commissions, but like
100K base, 200K, right? Like 100K base, 100K commission, right? Like on target earnings. There's not a lot of companies that can afford that right out the gate.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it your community mostly startup sales reps for the most, or is it enterprise? Like, where's kind of the range?
It's really all walks of life, to be honest with you, Connor. So we're up to about 1,500 members now. SDRs, BDRs, full sales cycle AEs. We even have some founders that are in there that are actually that quit their jobs and are creating their own company, right? And they're just still prospecting and stuff. So it's a wide variety of what we've got. We have some junior reps that they're just learning. And so they're just absorbing and being, flies on the wall within the community. Then we have some that are rock stars, man. We've got reps that are been in sales development for 10 plus years. They have some of the best practices. They have some of the best tips. And they could put up 5 meetings a day in their sleep, So it's a mixture of everything. So everybody gets something, right? If you're new and never done SDR before, great, join RevLeage. You'll just be a fly on the wall to just see people killing it and talking about the pains and the acronyms, right? And like, what does that mean? Or what's that? And you just kind of get familiar in real life experience. That's what's so great about the community is it's real life. The shit that happens at RevLeage isn't fabricated. It's not fluff. We're not trying to put out a persona. We celebrate the highs and the lows, right? We've seen people be not booking for 5 days because we have Ambition, one of our sponsors, and we do gifts. So when you land a meeting or close a deal, a personal gift will share to the Slack channel and kind of celebrate with everybody. Sometimes you don't see people for a couple of days, but they're still in the group cheering on or talking about those lows and getting advice and getting support from others that are also going through it. So it's a little bit of everything, multiple. We're not really into like the big leagues where we don't have a whole team of like, let's say 30 SDRs from one major company in there.
Right.
It's just little pieces of everybody, but it's a variety.
Yeah. I'm trying to build my own community through B2B mentors, similar, but more for marketing personas, marketing executives, marketing leaders. It's an impressive size community. How did you build that community? What were some of the tools and how do you keep them regularly engaged?
So, we kicked this off back in September of last year, right? September of 2020. Jeff didn't come in until a few months, like about
October.
1 to 2 months. Yeah, like 1 to 2 months right after. And really, honestly, it started thankful to Jared, Robin, and the larger community, Rev Genius, that it is housed within, right? Because RevLeage isn't a community of its own. We don't have a sign-in, right? You're not coming to us directly. It's a piece and an element of Rev Genius as a whole. And so it all started on accident with, hey, this Friday, do you want to have a cold calling contest within the community he had already built, right? Of us salespeople. We were like, hey, let's jump on a phone because we were all sitting at, in our rooms and bored. Well, then it caught attention. People liked it. And I realized, holy shit, let's build a virtual sales floor. Let's do this. We'll just bring everybody together. And even though we're all in homes, still feel like we're in an office and get that communication of hearing other people on the phone, doing different things, and learning from each other. So it kind of started. And then it just grew from there. And then what we tried to do is provide tools, sponsors, right? That would help out and give them tools to amplify them. So we got a couple of sponsors, Connect and Sell, and Ambition have been with us since the beginning. And, we drove that. And what keeps people around really is, I don't even know. I can't even answer that. I don't know why people keep showing up every day, man. I don't know.
I can answer that, okay? And it has a lot to do with this guy right here. There. But the fact of the matter is,
you're pointing at me. What the hell did I do?
Hey, which way am I pointing? I don't know.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You're pointing at Tom.
It's both of you. Anyways.
Yeah.
No, the fact of the matter is that the reason people keep coming back to RevLeage is there's several things. One, it's fun. It's actually just fun, right? Like a bunch of gifts popping up. Hey, I just booked a meeting. I'm sitting there in my home office and I'm going woo woo, and then I get to say woo woo with everybody else, right? There's other people. Tom goes, Jeff, way to go, way to get book that meeting. Let's close that sale. You know, like I actually have people, even though I'm in my home office in Canada while Tom's in Arizona, we're actually still on the same sales floor. Like just think about that. I've never had this in my life. Okay, I've never had it where I've actually run teams on 6 continents at one time, and I've still never had this level of camaraderie in a sales floor. Okay, the way that we've set this up, the ease of use with a Slack community, being able to actually just communicate with everybody, and the moment I get off a bad call and I feel crappy about myself, I can type a message in there. And there's going to be half a dozen to a dozen people right away that will say, Jeff, don't worry about it. This is what's happening. Here's what you do instead, right? I get advice on the fly. I get kudos on the fly. I get to get support when I really need it. I get to give support when my cup's full, you know? And so what happens is you just have several, 1,500 people just constantly doing this. And you have something that it's sticky. People want to stay.
You're engaged in Slack. It's where you communicate.
Yep. And one element Jeff didn't throw in there that really does make it fun too is the gamification, right? Gamification is huge in sales. And honestly, I don't know how we did it, but RevLeage has bred a way to do gamification without cutting each other's throats and being on one another. Like we did a March Madness contest back in March. We had 32 people participate. They booked 259 meetings over 16 days. And they were heads up matchups, and there was a redemption bracket. So nobody even lost really. And man, it was amazing. Like people were rooting for one another. People were high-fiving each other. We had 2 guys up until a Friday afternoon go 9 for 9, and they had to fight to the last
in 3 days. In 3 days.
This was in numbers of setting appointments, basically.
Appointments.
9
versus 9 in 3 days. Okay? Yeah.
Their matchup did 18 meetings, 19 meetings in that 3 days. And the final person got it at the last minute. And we all hung on it, right? We stayed in the Slack group and didn't log off yet because we wanted to see who would pull it out, right? And so it's just a lot of gamification element that we throw in there. Shout out, little promo here. We've got our Summer League contest on July 20th, actually. So Dooley and Chili Piper are sponsoring it this time around. And we're doing a whole summer league. Again, booked meetings, closed deals, and people are going to compete. And they win prizes, swag from Rev Genius, Chili Piper, Dooley. And it's just fun shit like that, right? And we don't take it serious. I think that's another thing, too. Like, we have a weekly roundtable. We talk to one another. And there's not, like, a formality to it. I think communities tend to get too formal. And we're just a loose cannon. We're a loose cannon.
Let's be honest. Like, we're not monetizing this community. We're not like our world is just we're there for people to show up. We're there to help. We're there to serve. And the people that show up with us, they're also doing the same thing. Like we're not trying to get anything out of this except, in all honesty, sharpen our tool shed, get better at what we do. And that's what we're there for. That's what Tom and I are there for. Okay. And we do that every day. And the people that volunteer with us, the people that join our roundtables. So I'll give you one example. Yesterday, one of our colleagues was having an issue with the sequence. She was noticing that a lot of the people that are in our customer base were moving on to new companies, right? So they asked, do we have a sequence? And because I'm known as the sequence guy here, people were pinging me, Jeff, what do you got? What do you got? I had nothing, to be perfectly honest.
And what does that mean, sequence?
So like a sequence of emails, phone calls, and messages that you do over, 14, 15 days to try to get somebody's attention. And so I said, no, I got nothing, but we are doing office hours in 2 hours. Okay. So we said, hey, why don't we just get together as a group and write a freaking sequence? So we wrote 4 emails, 3 social messages, and a couple phone scripts in 45 minutes. And now our whole team has a great freaking, hey, I saw you moved companies. Here's a great message for you.
It's a collaboration, man. It's so fun. So we do office hours every bi-weekly on email. Jeff runs. The email guy, sequence, cadences, and then I do cold calling office hours. Talk about objection handling, cold calling, all of that element. And yeah, it was epic yesterday. You know, that's the kind of collaboration environment is it's real stuff, right? It's you can go to LinkedIn, you can find some of the best practices, but what's so cool about RevLeague is we're actually creating content within our community. That's what's cool is like they just built a sequence on the fly yesterday that if you went to that office hours, you got a little sequence that isn't going to end up on LinkedIn. Nobody's going to know. Like it's just this niche group that just totally got to take advantage of. They created it together. You're collaborating with 8 to 9 other SDRs and AEs and trying to critique this message. And sure, you have Jeff, the expert, coming over the top and empowering them to do so and giving tips. And then next thing you know, in 45 minutes, you walk away with a 4-touch sequence and now you're going to blow out your competition, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. And that's kind of what this community is. And, you know, it's just fun to watch people grow. I think, you know, Jeff and I like to say we could probably say most of our members have grown their pipeline by 3x since joining. One of our members went, 9 in January, 9 in February,
6,
21, 6,
6,
9 in January, 6 in February, 21 in March, 15 in April, and is consistently hitting double digits now every month because of the impact that she's gathering and the camaraderie that's being pushed within RevLeague. Because, dude, I mean, Connor, you can tell me this. You're in sales. You're watching somebody drop 5 gifts in a day and you're not dropping anything. What's going to happen? You're just going to get riled up because you don't want to roll the 0, right? Like, you're like, I got to do this.
What was that thought right there, Connor? What was that thought? What were you thinking?
Which one? I mean, naturally, as salespeople, we're competitive, right? But we also do enjoy that camaraderie. I mean, we like to socialize and have fun with one another, and you know, goof around. Like you kind of have to be a little silly to be a salesperson. So, I mean, I can clearly tell. It's apparent how passionate you guys are about it, and there's a reason why it's working. I mean, community is the strongest thing that you can build, and it's kind of the whole theme around, you know, B2B mentors. You cannot create success in a vacuum. You need other people, the right information, insights. Doesn't matter if they're younger than you, less experienced than you, more experienced than you. I learned stuff from little kids that I talk to, you know, like and adults who are like in their 70s. There's always something to learn from somebody else. So I think it's a great format to engage. One thing, you know, you guys have this podcast. We're kind of running down on the last few minutes here, but talk about what you're, and this may even be coming from your community. What are some of the running themes, trends, I guess wins that are happening out there? I guess let's start with trend. What are some of the biggest sales trends that you're seeing or hearing regularly, even from podcast guests that you're having?
I'll plug you in on that. That you came on our show because of social selling. The number one trend that me and Jeff have watched since Jeff, February? Because it wasn't last year. I would say it was probably January, February this year. Social selling cranked up big time. Shout out to Evan Patterson. Shout out to you, right? Talking about this and putting it out to people that you can land big deals through social selling. So the number one trend we've been watching is SDRs want to learn how to do that. What does that mean? What is social selling? What the hell are you talking about? How do I leverage these platforms to just chat with people and drive business? Like, what the hell? You know, so social selling has probably been the number one trend and big win that a lot of people are kind of kicking ass at. What else, Jeff? What do you think?
Just related to that is actually being creative and looking at different channels, so different solutions. So as we saw last year, a huge influx of automation, email, and all those things that drove down response rates on email. We're seeing people say, okay, well, one channel is just not good enough right now. We got to pick 2 to 3 channels and really be creative about how we're going about prospecting to people. And just
what do you think would be common sense? It's like, why am I restricted? Why can't I just use the shit that's out there? I mean, you got so many different ways to do it.
And it's all free too. Like just what we were going to talk about tech stack. You don't need half of it, man. It's all out there. Like there's ways to you can find ways to get business without fancy tech stack. Does it help? Sure. But like people are getting more crazy. People are using Venmo to book meetings. They're sending transactions like 2 pennies. Hey, can I get 2 cents with, you know, what's your 2 cents? They're doing, one guy booked a meeting off of Call of Duty on a private chat. Like,
that's hilarious.
Ran into somebody in the network and
Right.
planned a meeting for a Monday morning. Like, it's people just are going beyond the normal 90s way of doing things. So the creativity is getting there. I think personalization is taking off. The days of, I had to change my whole game back in July of last year. I was about to die. I don't think I would have made it out of sales development, to be honest, if I didn't change what I was doing, because the old way of doing some stuff just didn't work. So now you've had to get creative. You have to personalize. You have to personalize at scale. Don't mean just put their name in there, right? Like, oh, what school did you go to? It's just getting so crazy that I think the big word is sales is getting more human now. And it's coming back to its core. Build real relationships. Buyers have so much information at their fingertips now that it's not the 90s anymore where you had to outbound to them and educate them on your product. They're going to get that with or without you. Do a Google search. It's at their fingertips. They don't need you pushing that anymore. What they need you to push is, why do business with you? Right? Like, why you? Why am I going to respond to your email versus the other 50 that are sitting in my inbox?
What's been your consensus? I came in and talked about social selling, but that's my perspective. You guys have talked to handfuls of salespeople who have actually experienced the results as well. And so what's your consensus of what is successful social selling? What does it actually mean?
Yeah, this is the fun thing, is that there is no consensus, Connor.
There is.
So the beauty of social selling and what we've seen from the people in our group, in our network even, is that everybody has their own kind of unique personality and the way to go about it. So if I try to tell you, if you want to be an expert at outbound sales, you have to be an expert at email, phone, and LinkedIn, right? But that's so freaking vague. There's so many things that we can do from there. There's people that are successful at social selling right now that all they do is Clubhouse. They go to Clubhouse rooms, they talk to people about what's going on in their world, and then they bring them back into their funnel. Okay. There's others that are on social, on LinkedIn, and treating it just like email. Okay. So connect note, a response 3 days later, that kind of stuff. There's people out there literally just living in the comments and engaging people in the comments and starting conversations.
Building brands, building brands and authority, right?
Right. And yeah, to your point, like the 3 points that you made, there's lots of people being really successful with, hosting regular content and really doing the whole gamut of social selling. But what is most important here is that genuine human connection, understanding your buyer, understanding their pains, and then being creative about getting in front of them. Okay, so being creative about getting in front of them. I know that's a little too vague for what you want to.
Not at all. I think we have a similar realization of it. It's like, social selling has a bad name because people get a bad DM on LinkedIn. They're like, what's a social selling shit? I don't want to do social selling. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, whether you're meeting people in person or cold calling or hitting up your prospect on fucking Xbox. That's so funny. I like the Venmo one too. That's pretty creative. I love that.
Creative.
It's using digital channels to creatively get in front of and stay in front of your accounts and your prospects and the people that you're trying to have conversations with.
I think it comes down to live where your audience is. That's the first and foremost. Social selling is now size fits all. I have people doing it on Twitter. I have people doing it on LinkedIn. I have people doing it on Venmo. Find where your audience is. And two, being respectful and being human. You can't train that. That's not a course you can go through. Like, the ones that are winning at social selling is because they're just social people. And they know how to build and have conversation and engage and talk with people without being salesy, right? That's a very special skill. I give everyone credit that can social sell very well, because you're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, you're creating your own content, and you're giving back to them, and then they're coming back to you because you're building trust. The guy that does it on Clubhouse is amazing. He just has normal conversations. He's not even selling. He's in the right rooms with the right audience, and he's just talking about what he does for a living.
Love hate with Clubhouse, because you got to stick around. I mean, you got to be in there, and it works, but it can be painful.
We have a buddy of ours that started on Clubhouse when it first launched to the sales world in January, and he found a whole business model out of it and quit his job. And now, but he'll share his screen time with you or how he checks his app times. And it's like 20 hours, 16 hours, but he's balling out. He built a lane and now he loves what he does. And he just,
what kind of business did he build off of Clubhouse?
Rapping.
Oh, rapping.
Yeah. So now he does B2B theme songs and B2B music. And
wait, is that a Patrick or?
So his name is Dean. D-I-N. Yeah, Dean. And shout out to him because it was awesome to watch. Joe Tron did the same thing with marketing and digital marketing. He got into the right rooms and he won our March. So going back to that March Madness and that gamification and RevLeague, he won that entire tournament by purely just doing Clubhouse. And he beat out cold callers, emailers, social sellers. And he did, 37 meetings in the 16 days? All by himself, all through Clubhouse funnel. Just being in the right rooms with the right audience and the right links and just social selling. Didn't even have to do an email or a phone call for the whole comp.
Guys, this has been phenomenal. And we're going to have to do a part 2 because there's just so much more we can dive into. And I just realized I think I like this view better. I think it's a little bit.
It's kind of cool. It feels like we're watching like ESPN or something.
I know, exactly. I should have been doing this shit the whole time.
Who can high five me? Who is it?
Wrong side.
I don't know. I can't do it.
That's a weird thing about
everything I do is wrong.
This it's like backwards. You don't know which way is up, which way is down.
There it is.
There we go. We did it. High five that we high fived.
Are you crossing your screen? Am I behind your head?
So guys, in the last few minutes that we have here, I'd love if anything else that's super top of mind for you, that's actionable, good takeaways that people can implement, take action on.
Yeah, you know what? The number one thing that you can do is that, and really, really know your customer. I really advocate when we're talking about social selling is listen first before you push. Okay, go out there and follow the people in your industry, follow influencers, follow people that you know are speaking the language that you know you need to speak, and just start to learn how to talk like them, how to learn how to talk to them and understand what type of problems they have and start there, because selling is not really that hard when you really know your customer. You just have conversations. You're just like one-on-one, just like we're doing here today. Is that like we could sell to each other like no problem because we're easy to talk to. It's easy to talk because we know each other, we know our pains and that kind of thing. So if you know your customer, everything else becomes easy and tactics don't mean shit.
That's the best way to put it, dude. I totally agree. You know, I preach that, you know, in sales development, when you're prospecting and doing things, SDR is a skill. It is not who you are. Who you are is your customer. That's why it is so important when they choose a company to join with. And I love the conversations that are happening around it nowadays is be passionate about what you're going to go sell. Don't get a sales job just to get a sales job. The best salespeople in the world believe in what they do. They have a belief in what they do. And that's what wins deals because they want to be in those forums in digital marketing. I love SEO so much that, yeah, it's part of my job as working for a digital marketing agency, but I did that because that's where I live already. I love those conversations, right? I know that stuff. So now it's easy for me to talk to the customers and the prospects because I'm in your world. I'm putting on the hat of you and just using the SDR role as the skill set to get the meeting with you, but that's not who I am. I'm one of you. I talk with you, not at you. I listen, I ask open-ended questions, and I know how to just talk to you. You know, hey, Connor, how's it going? You know, it's Tom. I'm not going to tell you the whole shebang, but like I'm reaching out because I know right now in the last 3 months, you've been dealing with Core Vitals coming out in Google. How shitty has that been? Oh, it's been awful, right? And you just start talking and it naturally is like, hey, would you be interested to squeeze me in for 30 minutes? And it's easy, you know, because you're not selling. Selling isn't, if you have to sell, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Service.
The more we can talk about that, Pete, there's such a confusion, especially for the younger generation on what selling actually is, because you have that cartoonish character in your mind of a salesperson who's trying to push shit on you that you don't need or want. Yeah. When it's not like that at all. Right. Even when I was doing door-to-door sales for long periods of time, it's like, if you can build the relationship, engage, find the pains, find the challenges, find the biggest hurdles in a friendly, informal way, dude, you'd be killing it and making a shit ton of money doing it too.
Make them the hero of the story. It's not about you, right? You're just connecting the dots. Hey, my company's got this amazing product. I know you're hurting. I'm just a bridge to get you there and get you to take that action and say why we are the company to fix it. That's all.
And on that note, just you mentioned in our intro here about Alfred. So we want you to just remember to be the guide, not the hero. It's your customer's story. It's your customer's hero journey story. You're their guide. You're not Batman, you're Alfred. Okay, just remember this.
You're their sales shaman. Be their shaman.
Yes. And if anybody wants to learn exactly what I'm talking about there, go to that link at the bottom of the screen, go to outboundsos.com, sign up for our free training, and you learn exactly what the hell we're talking about here.
Guys, if you want to be crushing it in your outbound game, again, I'll just overemphasize that. See that little ticker symbol down there? Go.outboundsos. Save our souls, baby. Save us.
Oh, there you go. We got some content to change.
On that note, too, what is the best way for people to find you, follow you, get into contact with you?
Yeah, you know what? Check us out on LinkedIn. Connor, I think you're going to share our LinkedIn profiles there.
Absolutely not. That's not my job.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, we'll share all your. Yeah. I'll share all your. I'll always share your guys' stuff.
Yeah. Just check us out on LinkedIn.
We're big on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of our content's at. That's where a lot of our brands are established, right? That you could follow us, connect to us on there. Find our link trees, everything else we're doing. Find our podcast, right? Fill the Funnel. It's on all the major platforms. You can look it right up and see us there. That comes out every Friday, just sharing tips and practices around filling the funnel, right? What's happening, what's working. But yeah, you can just find us over there.
Beautiful. Guys, appreciate you so much. We'll definitely get together here in the coming months for part 2. And, just always loved hanging out with you. Stick around for one quick second. Everybody else here, wow, that was incredible. If you feel the same, make sure you share this out with others. Please go check out B2B Mentors on all your favorite podcast apps. We are on all your favorite podcast apps. Go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. And also make sure you go check out activeblogs.com, our partners over at activeblogs.com. If you're struggling with your blogs, newsletters, and LinkedIn content, activeblogs.com is for you. Much love to you all, and I'll see you on the other side.